The Tar Heels are looking fantastic. So my question now, what's their ceiling for this NCAA tournament?
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, it's Thursday, March 20th, 2025. Happy start of March Madness, although I guess Tar Heels are already rolling, so whatever, we were in the preamble. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade. You're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks so much for making us your first listener watch to get your Thursday going the right way. Hopefully you're able to take off work or at least pretend like you're at work while you're watching games today. Special shout out to all the everydayers who are with us, all the Locked On Tar Heels Discord members, and of course our great Locked On Tar Heels insiders. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Coming up on the show today, we're going to kind of bridge the gap between San Diego State and Ole Miss. We're going to talk about the quick turnaround from the selection show to like, oh crud, we got to be in Dayton tomorrow, basically. How do we handle that? We're going to look at using the San Diego State like game script for how it might be instructive in the game against Ole Miss on Friday tomorrow. And I got to wish you all, I know I said it earlier, but let me wish you a happy March Madness. And Pac, we said it earlier, and we'll get going here in a second, but I'm just glad that we're not talking off season today. I think we feared that we might be talking portal or breaking down like why things went wrong this season. But here we are, and I feel a lot different today than I did, say, Saturday.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, Saturday we were all going, are we going to make it? Most everybody thought no. And now all of a sudden we've played maybe our best, most complete game of the year. So yeah, we feel a lot differently now.
And that's a great segue. Pac Carolina playing perhaps their most complete game of the year. I mean, if it's not, it's in the top three conversation. I haven't stopped to think about what others would contend with that, but good grief. Given the circumstances, the opponent, all of that, I think it probably is the answer. So then, Pac, the question immediately becomes, here's what I want us to tackle in segment one today. If North Carolina plays like they did on Tuesday going forward, their ceiling in this tournament is fill in the blank, and your answer cannot be the roof.
Well, I think, the ceiling, if we continue to play like this, and if we can get this consistently, I think the ceiling is we can give Auburn a game in the Elite Eight.
Wow, you went there.
I went there. I think, I'm not saying we beat them, but I'm saying they're not comfortable in that game if we play that well, and that we have a chance to win that game. So I think that would be the ceiling. And honestly, what more could you ask for? A chance to go to the Final Four. I think if I said that at the beginning of the season, we would all take that. So definitely, I think that's a possibility. I like our path. I like the way we match up. And I like the way we're playing right now. So I think that's our ceiling. What about you?
Well, let me say it's funny that somehow I didn't realize this Sunday when the bracket came out. It occurred to me, I think in the live postcast after Tuesday night's win over San Diego State, that Carolina is one of four Maui teams in this bracket. And Pac, if the path plays out right and Carolina keeps winning, let's say we beat Ole Miss tomorrow. The next three games could all be against teams that were at Maui. Iowa State, and then potentially Michigan State, who Carolina played, and then potentially Auburn, who Carolina played. So that's pretty crazy. Like there is a path where Carolina could play three of the eight teams from Maui, two of whom they played actually in Maui, and would be a nice shot at redemption, I'm sure. As I look at this, my gut reaction is the same as you. I think making the Elite Eight to go up against Auburn, who I have as my national champion, is a big hill to climb. But as I think about the potential path to get there, we'll break down and get completely ready for the Ole Miss game tomorrow. But I'll go ahead, cards on the table. Carolina can beat Ole Miss. Probably should beat Ole Miss, especially if they're playing like they did on Tuesday night. Iowa State, I have said a lot this season that this is a team with one seed capability. The problem is they've been hurt so much this season. Milan Momcilovic missed a lot of the season. He's back now. Curtis Jones, their now leading scorer, has missed time, but he's back. Taman Lipsey has been banged up and in and out. And now TJ Otzelberger, their head coach, announced before the tournament even started that they will be without Keshawn Gilbert, who is their number 2 leading scorer. And so Iowa State's going to be shorthanded if that's who Carolina plays, if Carolina is able to get past Ole Miss. Assuming you can beat a shorthanded Iowa State team, you're most likely looking at a rematch with Michigan State. A team against when Carolina was struggling earlier this season, they came a missed Elliot Cadeau layup away from probably winning that game. I know there was a little more time on the clock and Michigan State probably would have got a shot, but whatever, you understand that. So I'm with you, Pac. I think the path is there. And who knows how things could break, right? Auburn might not be sitting there on the other side of that Elite Eight matchup, right? And then you'd feel probably a lot better about things. I think I say all that to say, I don't know what stops Carolina outside of themselves. And so, Pac, that leads me to my very next question for us. We've seen the Tar Heels win 9 of their last 11, with the lone losses coming at the hands of the nation's number 1 team, the Duke Blue Devils. Can Carolina be consistent enough and locked in enough to deliver the level of performance we saw on Tuesday night again and again and again? Do they have that consistency within them now, or is it just like this team just doesn't have that level of consistency?
Well, I think they do have that level of consistency. Now, have we completely seen it yet? No. Where I'm going with this is, just like you said, we won 9 of our last 11. We went on a spurt there where we won 6 in a row, and we showed some consistency. But the problem is that consistency was against not NCAA tournament caliber competition. Now we'll have to show that consistency against NCAA caliber competition. So the level at which we're playing definitely changes, but we are playing our best basketball of the season. And we have shown that we can win 6 in a row, which is, well, I guess in our case, it would take 7 in a row to win the national championship. But we've shown we can win consecutive games. And so I think this team definitely has that. And I think the main thing for us is not necessarily so much to focus on our opponents, but it's to focus on Carolina and to be the best basketball team that we can be and do what we do, go where we go. You know the old saying. But I think those are the things that are important. And if we can hang our hat on being the best version of us, then I think we'll get that consistency and we'll have a chance to make a run.
And Pac, when you look at the full resume and where that causes Carolina to be ranked, sure, they're an 11 seed. But when you look at BartTorvik.com, dating back to the beginning of this 11-game run, since that day, February 15th, Carolina ranks at Torvik as the 12th best team in the nation. That's not an 11 seed. That's the last 3 seed. So we're looking at a team that is playing like a 3 seed instead of an 11 seed. That means that's part of why Carolina is favored against Ole Miss, right? It's not recency bias. It's just Carolina's a better team if they play to their potential. And that's the thing we keep going back to, is the potential for this consistency. So Pac, then the question is, what led to Tuesday night's dominant performance? I don't want to put that into Ole Miss terms yet. Like, I want to save that for later on in the show. But just thinking back to Tuesday night, what was it?
Well, I think it's twofold. I think, first of all, it was kind of like a weight lifted off of our shoulders. Hey, you know what? We did our job. There's not as much pressure on us now. We're in the tournament. And now we can focus on us and we can just go play basketball. Yeah. And then the second fold to this equation is Coach Davis had to do zero motivating. There was bulletin board material everywhere.
For days.
Days. And enough to fuel an entire tournament run. Now, I'm sure Coach Davis is having conversations with the team, but he wouldn't have to. I mean, it's everywhere. Everyone doubted. And Carolina said, you know what? Not only did we make the tournament, we have nothing to lose. Pretty much nobody outside of Chapel Hill and Carolina's fan base believed that they should be there, and let alone believe that they would compete. And so Carolina just went and said, you know what? Come get you some of this right here. And they did. They played great. They played free. They played together. They made great decisions offensively for the most part. We had some turnovers early, but I just thought we played a pretty clean game, an overall game. And sometimes whenever you got all this noise going on outside, it just forces you to grow closer together as a team. And I just thought that was really evident on the court Tuesday night.
Man, that's good stuff. And obviously, there are other other things that can lead to it. We can talk to those more in segment 3. Talk some of those specifics: rebounding, defense, free throw line, etc. Pac, we'll head there soon. Now, I want to talk some logistics because you're a coach. You see this stuff and you know what all has to go into it and how difficult it is on a team. Carolina finds out on Sunday night, a team, by the way, that probably is like, I think we might not be getting this thing. You find out you're getting in, you got to go play in Dayton, like basically 48 hours from that exact moment. That's a lot to turn around, both logistically, mentally, physically, and everything else. So we'll talk about how to get ready for that, all coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about Monarch Money, you ever check your bank account and wonder, hey, where'd all my money go? Well, between dining out and online shopping and entertainment, man, it's easy to lose track, and that's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, you can track your investments and spending all in one place. So you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, what I love is that you can use Monarch to check your finances, track your spending, and even plan long-term goals. My wife and I, we're always trying to make sure we're on the same page financially. And thankfully, with Monarch Money, managing that money with my partner, with my wife, is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts. You can set goals. You can stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Again, that's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. This episode is also brought to you by Game Time. Imagine watching your favorite team live and feeling the energy of the crowd and witnessing unforgettable moments. There's nothing like experiencing a big game in person. Getting tickets shouldn't be stressful, and that's where Game Time comes in, making it even easier to grab last-minute tickets at unbeatable prices. I like Game Time picks, man. It's curation that makes it easier to find better value for tickets to sports, to concerts, comedy, theater, and so much more. I recently just checked the Game Time app. I was looking ahead to Carolina's game coming up tomorrow, and man, there are amazing deals on some huge matchups, including Carolina against Ole Miss. The lowest price guarantee or the Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference, man, if you find something cheaper elsewhere. With seat views before you buy, no surprise fees, and a lowest price guarantee, you can book with total confidence. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. Pac, I can't imagine the range of emotion and mental preparedness and physical preparedness and everything else that goes into like, hey, I really think we might not be getting into this thing, to your name is announced in the first region that showed on the bracket reveal, to all of a sudden like, oh, and that means we probably got to leave tonight or tomorrow so we can get up to Dayton, so we can practice, so we can get ready to take on San Diego State. And oh, by the way, when that's all happening, Carolina has flight delays stuff, and it's a whole mess. Pac, like just at a level of all that, not even playing the game, just getting ready for it. How do you go about that?
Well, it kind of goes back to what I talked about earlier. I think, when it talks about getting ready for the game, I think sometimes, first of all, like those quick turnarounds where you find out who you're going to play and then you got to get there and you just show up and you play and everything seems to fly by. Sometimes that's when you play your best. Just because you don't have time to think about it, and you don't have time to overthink it. You don't have time to overcoach it. You got to go play.
Yeah.
Sometimes that kind of works in your favor, especially if you're a team or a coach that's focused on your team and doing what you do and less so about the other team. Now, that's not to say that Carolina didn't prepare for that game, or they didn't out, because they absolutely did. And I'm not taking that away. But what I am saying is I thought Carolina was a great version of themselves. And that, I think part of that really showed in that quick turnaround. And guess what? That's a really good sign, because if we take care of Ole Miss on Friday, we'll have another quick turnaround and we'll play on Saturday. So you want
Sunday.
or I'm sorry, Sunday. Yes. But you want your team to be able to have those quick turnarounds like that. And where I was going with that is, I mean, y'all have heard me say this a million times, but it's so much about who you are as a team and your identity and your principles, especially in those quick turnarounds, because that's what you rely heavily on. And I thought Carolina did a good job of that Tuesday.
It's funny, Pac. It feels like we understand that differently now because of the year right after COVID, when games were getting scheduled like a day or two before, right? And you just went out and balled, and it sure you scouted as much as you could in a little time, but it was just a different vibe. And I think the guys are kind of more used to that in this day and age in a post-COVID era. But Pac, with Carolina's quick turnaround from are we playing? We're definitely playing, but it's in Dayton. We got to go play San Diego State. And now we get to go from Tuesday to Friday, and we only got to go a couple hours up the road to Milwaukee. Not too terribly bad. How does all that quick turnaround help Carolina should they beat Ole Miss and have to have that quick turnaround getting ready for Iowa State?
Well, I think, Ole Miss has probably been sitting back and they're going, okay, we know we're going to get San Diego State or North Carolina. Let's just go ahead and start scouting both of them and let's get prepared and all this. But like I said, sometimes, that can be to your disadvantage because you can spend so much time focusing on your opponents that you forget about yourself and your own stuff, or you maybe overcoach it or overthink it or whatever. So in Carolina's situation, they could not overlook San Diego State. They had to focus on that game. And now
I think it's safe to say that they did not overlook San Diego State.
Absolutely not. They played really well. And so now they can turn their focus to Ole Miss, and they can get there. But like I said, sometimes when you're on the road and it's nothing but you and your unit, you and your team, and there's, especially right now, there's all this outside noise about Carolina making it, and even with that win against San Diego State, they're still not justified for being in the tournament and all this stuff. Man, all they got is themselves. So they're tighter than they've ever been.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to really prove itself to be a benefit when we play on Friday. Certainly showed itself on Tuesday, I thought. But I just like that cohesiveness, being on the road together, getting locked in, having those quick turnarounds, and just being able to play Carolina basketball. I think that's going to be a really big benefit.
And you've talked multiple times now in this show, Pac, both in segment 1 and here in segment 2, about Carolina's togetherness, about their cohesion, all of those kind of things. What's really interesting to me is that in each of Carolina's last 3 wins, the ACC tournament wins over Notre Dame, and then against Wake Forest, and on Tuesday night against San Diego State. Each time you saw Carolina do their post-game interview as a team. That helps show some of that cohesion that they have. But I think maybe the moment that showed it to me even more was not the whole team, but it was two members of this team. And it was on Friday night as Jalen Withers stood not at this dais taking the post-game presser questions, stood just by himself in front of a wall with all the gaggle gathered around him, except he wasn't by himself because his head coach, Hubert Davis, stood there with his arm around him. And Pac, what I want to know from you as a coach is what leads to something like that, where you take a moment that Jalen Withers is never going to forget the rest of his life, that lane violation, and turn it into another moment that Jalen Withers is never going to forget. The night that, yes, he cost his team at least overtime, probably, there was time on the clock. But also, he's never going to forget the fact that the man that brought him to Carolina stood by him in maybe one of his worst moments and said whatever it needed to be said with his arm around them. What does that mean as a coach? What does that mean as a player? And how does that show Carolina's connectedness?
Yeah, I think, those moments right there, especially as a coach, I think sometimes you're able to see more of the bigger picture than the players are in the moment. And I think what rung true there and then even afterwards was Jalen Withers did not, in theory, yes, he did. That play did cost us an opportunity to go to overtime. But there were a lot of plays in that game that cost us the opportunity to go to overtime. The entire first half cost us the opportunity. And that's not just on Jalen Withers. And I think that's a good starting point. I think Coach Davis probably recognized, hey, there were a lot of things in that game that could have gone differently. But, of course, everyone's going to be focused on that last play, that last thing that happened, because that's what stands out the most. And also, I mean, when's the last time we saw a lane violation in a moment like that in college basketball? I don't know that I've ever seen anything like that. So I think it was just a huge talking point. But Coach Davis realizes that's not the only thing. But the other thing is, I mean, the relationships you build with your players, they become like children to you, by extension. And especially a lot of ways in college, because parents are entrusting their children to you to help continue to raise them as grown men. And so Coach Davis, I mean, you can critique him on a lot of things if you want, but what you can't critique him on is he's a solid man. And I think he does the best, what he believes is the best thing for the players in the program. And so it was no surprise to any of us that follow that he would stand in the gap right there and be with Jalen in that moment. But those types of things definitely, they bring connectedness. It just stands out, and people realize, hey, or players realize, hey, coach has our back in these moments, or vice versa. Yeah. And when you have that, man, it just allows you to play more free, more together, more connected. And I think we've seen that, not just from that moment, but like you said, the post-game interviews, heck, just watching the way we play, the way we've been sharing the ball better, the way we've been moving better, the way we've been connected defensively. I mean, those things correlate to how you play on the court, and we've been seeing some major growth there.
I think for Hubert Davis, what's nice is I can confidently say about that. Like if I was talking to him, I would say, and if he was my friend, I would just say, Hubert, Coach Smith would have been proud of you for that. And I think that would mean the world to him. Like that's the kind of man he's trying to be in, the kind of program he's trying to run. And I think that would be meaningful. And here's what I love about that moment as well, that I think it would be easy for us to now forget is he can't stand there with him to Jalen and say, it's all right, man, we'll get it next time out. Because in that moment, that might have been the last time out. Had Carolina not gotten in, they might not have accepted an NIT invitation or whatever it might have been. That could have been essentially the last play of Jalen Withers' college career. Like, let's wrap our brains around that. And so I love that Hubert Davis is standing by him, even though it's not, he doesn't know in that moment if he's coaching him up for the next game or for the end of his career. Now, obviously, it's like, yeah, he does get another opportunity and took advantage of it with the double-double on Tuesday night. But I love that from Hubert Davis. Whether you can do something for me on the floor or not, you're my guy, and I got you. Carolina has a lot they can learn from that win over San Diego State, and a lot that can potentially be instructive for how they'll square up against Ole Miss on Friday afternoon. We want to get to that and let Pac unpack some of that for us coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about 5 Hour Energy. Man, I don't know about you, but daylight savings time has snuck up on me again, and I'm feeling that lost hour of sleep. And maybe if you're like me and feel that, 5 Hour Energy has got your back. The extra sunshine means more time for fun and outside, but sometimes you need a little boost to power through it all. Whether you're staying up late watching NCAA tournament games, which start today, let's go, or squeezing in a round of golf after work, or just trying to keep up with your busy day, 5 Hour Energy gives you that quick, refreshing pick-me-up whenever you need it. I've been staying up way too late covering the NCAA tournament, and I tell you what, 5 Hour Energy, it's got the jolt I need to help keep me going through the day. Whether I'm at a game or traveling or whatever, 5 Hour Energy is easy to grab and helps me keep feeling refreshed. Head to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors to choose from, including watermelon, blue raspberry, and peach mango. You can even build your own 12-pack or 24-pack delivered right to your door. Need one now? Grab a 5 Hour Energy shot at your local grocery or convenience store. They're everywhere. Stock up today and stay energized.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the bracket breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day. Ole Miss coming up tomorrow Tomorrow's show will have a full get ready for that. But today, we do need a little bit of a look ahead because I want to ask you, you and I were texting back and forth about this earlier on Wednesday and just loved your insight into it. And so I want you to unpack that for everybody. We've talked about San Diego State, how Carolina prepared for them, how Carolina played them. And I want to know now, Coach Pac Kilby, how that then translates to Chris Beard's Ole Miss Rebels team. How do you keep that intensity, etc.?
Yeah, well, I think in a lot of ways the SDSU game was really similar to this Ole Miss game for several reasons. For one, it's travel, quick turnaround, play basketball. We're getting the same, similar situation with the Ole Miss game, but also Coach Dutcher, sorry, I'm butchering his name. Coach Dutcher, they've always been just rooted in defense. And if you know anything about college basketball, you know that Chris Beard's teams are rooted in defense.
That's right.
They don't exactly go about it the same way. San Diego State is kind of more of a pack line team, whereas Chris Beard's teams have always been more no middle. But so there's a little difference in scheme there. But for the most part, the things stay the same in the fact that Ole Miss is going to try to beat us with toughness, physicality, defense. Now they play a little faster than SDSU, but the point is, Carolina, I think, did a great job against SDSU of valuing each possession. Now we had some sloppy turnovers early, but that, and I thought for the most part we got good shots, and we shot it well, and so. I think that will be important. It's not that we even have to shoot it well against Ole Miss. It's that we need to get good shots, and we need to get shots on goal. We don't need to turn the ball over. And I think those types of things, those similarities between SDSU and Ole Miss are going to be beneficial for us when we play on Friday. But I also think Ole Miss presents a little bit of difference in the fact that they play faster than San Diego State. So, and in some ways that benefits Carolina because we'll be able to get the pace that we want to get, I think. So I think those things are, there's some similarities, but there's also some differences. But in the end, I think it all benefits Carolina.
Pac, what part of Tuesday night's performance is that Carolina shot great again, over 50% from the field, over 50% from beyond the arc. And Carolina has been consistently doing that from beyond the arc. They're now up to 36% as a team on the season. That's 74th in the entire nation. I don't think we thought we'd see that coming a couple months ago. But Pac, my question is, part of what made Tuesday night go is the fact that everything was going in. What happens if tomorrow afternoon Carolina goes out and the shots aren't falling at the same rate, similar to what happened in the Duke game last Friday?
Well, I think, I hope we don't shoot that bad. But, truthfully, I think if we just shoot okay, I think we're going to be all right. And I think the thing is we've got to hang our hat defensively and on the glass. We have to dominate the rebounding battle. Ole Miss does, in my opinion, have a weakness on the glass. If you go look at some of their SEC games, a lot of times, even if they won the game, they lost the rebounding battle. And so we need to take really good advantage of that. We need to create some second chances for ourselves, things of that nature. But the main thing is your defense is what travels. And we've got to bring our defense with us. It's got to get off the bus with us, and we've got to get stops. And if we do that, I think we're going to be able to score because, like I said, Ole Miss does play a faster pace than most defensive-oriented teams. And so I think we're going to get the pace we want. I think we're going to get plenty of shots. The key is, can we get the right shots, and can we get stops and dominate on the glass?
Yeah, get out in transition. That's a great point. And to Pac's point, let me put some numbers behind the rebounding. Ole Miss is 300th in the nation in total rebounds per game at 33.1. But it's obviously not just always about the averages. A lot of it is about rebounding percentage. So let's specifically look at offensive rebounding percentage, where, Ole Miss is 25.4%, which is 313th in the nation. That is something you can live with, definitely. But Carolina's got to go out and do it on the glass, right? Like that is part of it. Now, it's not that Carolina's setting the world on fire like the Roy Williams era teams in their own offensive rebounding, but Carolina is 201st in the nation, which is still far better than where Ole Miss is. So that's something definitely that we need to track as this game wears along. So Pac Kilby, really, really interesting battle coming up tomorrow afternoon. Again, this game is about a 4:00 Eastern tip. It's going to be on TNT. Unless the line moves from when we record until you watch or listen to it, Carolina favored by just 1.5 points. So basically a toss-up game. That means these little things like rebounding, like defense, all of that Pac is talking about is going to matter in a big way against a Chris Beard coach team. Guys, thanks so much for being with us. Tomorrow, Coach Rob will join me on the show to get ready for this game. Obviously, after it is over, we will have a live postcast reaction as everybody's eating a late dinner. So you can tune in with me there. Pac Kilby, great to be together, buddy. Where are you going to be watching this game at on Friday?
I'll be at home. I'll be in my living room. Rocking.
Nice.
I've already planned it. I'm going to do laundry. I'm going to have the same outfit I wore for Tuesday. We're going to be golden, ready to go at the Kilby house.
Okay, I love it. Well, if your schedule works out and you want to join me for the postcast, please do. But if you're still, if maybe you're putting some laundry away and that's fine or whatever. Folks, if you've not subscribed to the show already on video and audio, make sure you do that right now so you don't miss a second of Locked On Tar Heels. If you haven't joined our Discord, man, we would love to have you in there. That link is in the show notes, free to join. Come be a part of a Discord with hundreds and hundreds of Tar Heels in there. Also, if you want to go even deeper with the show, Locked On Tar Heels Insider Program. That link is in the show notes as well. You guys, it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We cannot wait to see you again tomorrow to get ready for this game and then talk about it on the back end. Hopefully a party and not a therapy session. We'll talk to you then, but for now, Coach Pac Kilby, you tell him.
Peace.